Welcome everybody. My name is Tom. I'm with AVPro. I have John Tumbleson here, the mind behind MXNet. John, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How about yourself, Tom?
Oh, so good. I mean, I'm excited for what we're doing here. So today, guys. Usually join our webinars. Me and John are going through a presentation. You fall asleep halfway through. You're going, oh my God, are these guys going to keep on drawing on? I'm just kidding. We make it exciting the whole time. Every time. But today we're going to do something different. No presentation at all. We have an MXNet system right now. So we have our encoders, decoders, a network switch. We have some TVs hung behind us. We have our little monitor here. And what we are going to do today is we are going to set up a system live. But before we do that, I want to let you guys know that if you are watching it on the GoToWebinar, you have the GoToWebinar control panel. Type your questions in there. We want this to be super interactive. As we are setting up this system, please send us some questions so as we're setting up, we can field your questions, kind of explain a little bit what's going down with the system. And you can find that right into the GoToWebinar system. I can see your questions right as they come in here. If you guys are having any problems with sound or anything like that, definitely let us know. We'll try to keep up. It's using my computer audio, which is right over here, but I think we'll still be okay. And then beyond that, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, just put it in the comments, because even if you are watching this later, me and John will follow up, and I'll definitely follow up, and I'll make sure I get the right answer from John before I answer.
Maybe you'll get the right answer from me. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. So first of all, I have a counter right here. We have our stuff right here. We have our sources and over here. We are going to start it up. We have this 1 hour to put together an entire MXNet system. We are hoping it doesn't take that long. We're thinking that it's not going to. But after it's up, we're going to then show off a little bit of what it can do on how you can set it up. The whole point of this is AV over IP, networking, IP, network switches can be daunting for an AV installer. But what we did with MXNet is we made sure that that was not the case. If any level 1 person who doesn't have access to every single type of network switch and hasn't been through Cisco or Netgear certification, you can still put this system together confidently. You can put your a new tech on a job site and feel confident they're going to put that together.
Exactly.
So without further ado, John, should we start rocking and rolling?
Yeah. So I think what we should probably start with is the network switch itself, and then we'll do the rest.
All right. So I'm gonna hit start on our timer here, guys. This is gonna be backwards because of the GoToWebinar software, but you guys can still get the idea. Just hold up a mirror if you're really confused. Here we go. I'll get this out of the way. We're starting off, and let's get this network switch out first here, John.
So, here's the unboxing, if you will, as we go ahead and pull this out.
Want to get that thing out of the way now, John? All right, we'll put these down here.
Just grab them. I'll grab them.
Okay, perfect. Stick it with that box.
So,
all right, now let's get this thing out of here. And here it is. This is the network switch.
Okay, so this is our 48-port version of the network switch. 48 ports of full PoE plus power, 740 watts total. Of course, our equipment only uses about 3 to 6 watts, so generally you'll have about a 400-watt overhead of extra power if you needed it. So just a really, really nice, setup there.
Boom. Where's the power for this? Is it in the box, or we got it right now?
I got it right here.
All right, so we went a little ahead of time. As you can see, I already ran the HDMI cables. I already powered the TVs. We have our category cable here. We're assuming as an integrator that you know how to run your own cabling. You do it better than me and John, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so we have that part already, but we are gonna start cracking into everything else. So now that we have this network switch, we have encoders and decoders. Do we hook up the TVs first? Do we hook up the sources? I mean, what's the best practices? What as a installer, what do you think they should installers should do?
What you're going to want to do, of course, is just go around and hook up all your sources to the transmitters or encoders, and then go around and hook up your decoders or receivers to your TVs. And once we have that all hooked up, then what we can do is plug in the control box and start taking a look at, you know, the configurations and setups. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is what do I need to do with this switch now that I've plugged it in? I don't need to do anything. This thing is pre-configured, and it's actually an understatement to say pre-configured because this switch has been redesigned by us from the ground up for AV. So there's more than just a going into the GUI of the switch and checking boxes and turning this on or that on.
Man, I knocked over the timer. I'm dropping the receivers, John.
Oh no, there we go.
There we go. Sorry.
And so there's more going on here than just a configuration. Okay, so but it is pre-done, so there's nothing to do. All we have to do is plug in our transmitters, receivers, control box, and we're done. So that's a huge difference. And that the reason for that is that we make our own switch. So this is our switch, and all of the components that are designed to be plugged into this switch, it's all tightly integrated, and they all share the same vision. So that's one of the first things to do. I'm going to put this little pad on top of the switch just so that if we want to put anything on top of it, it doesn't scratch the top of the switch.
You're so gentle, John. We have a good question here from Mark. Mark said, can these switches be stacked to, add more?
Absolutely, we can.
Of course.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we have. We've got 4. You can't quite see it here, but there's 4 10 gig SFP plus ports right here. We've got the little caps on them. I'll take one of them out. And yes, we can stack this 4 deep. If you go more than 4, what you're going to want to do is add a core switch so that we can add more bandwidth, so that the back plane goes to like 200 gigs instead of 100 gigs. But that's, yes, they can be stacked. Generally, 4 stacking 4 is going to be, several hundred endpoints.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the great question, though. Keep those questions coming. Definitely appreciate it. Multiple switches allowed. Paul definitely covered that one. What switch is this built off of? Well, this is our own switch. This is the MXNet switch. This was engineered by, we got a network switch engineer on staff, Kevin. He is, a mad genius when it comes to networking, and he designed this switch specifically for AV. And then so this is an MXNet switch.
Yeah, and
great question, Brad.
Add a little bit of detail. We use in this switch the Marvell processor. Okay, so just give away a little secret on it. The Marvell is based out of Southern California in the Silicon Valley, and it is one of the higher performing processors that you can get in the market. So we can literally load up this switch, and our CPU capacity is still going to be over 50%. So it's a great processor.
That's super cool. And we have a couple questions. Can I turn up my mic level? I'm actually not able to. I definitely apologize. When I export this on YouTube, I will definitely turn up the volume. I apologize for that, guys. And me and John will keep on trying to, talk as loud as we can.
Yeah, I'll yell at the computer. It's going that way. Right?
Yep. Okay. And then our rack ears included, of course. You definitely get rack ears with the network switch.
The accessory kit, it's got all the usual things: the ground wire, rack ears, the power cord, odds and ends, all the screws you need to attach the rack ears itself, all that.
Yep. And then we had another question. Is this the only size? We actually have a 48 port switch and a 24 port switch. Right. And then with more on the way. Even though we're using your own switch, this is what we recommend. You can, if you are a switch expert, as a lot of people are not, but if you are, you can always use your own switch as well. And
we have support for that. There's just certain switches are designed for email, surfing the web, and regular data, and there's very few switches out there that are designed for AV. Like the IGMP protocols have to be completely redone in order for AV to work properly.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I have a timer going. I did it. Yeah.
We were practicing our timer to make sure our timer was going. So what I'm doing, guys, is I have the actual decoders here. I have HDMI cables run from these 3 4K Dolby Vision HDR capable displays. And so I'm taking this HDMI cable. Of course, we use bullet train cables here, the only cable to trust for, confident, stable signals over long distances. And so, we want to go really long distances though. So we're using category cable. That's why we have AV over IP systems, right? Is because you want to do more than what HDMI cable can do. And so we're putting the signals from the sources into this network switch. And then once it's in this network switch, all that network switch is just routing a multicast signal, and the decoder is actually decoding the signal that it needs to for the one that you choose throughout your system. So right now, I now have my HDMI cables going into my displays, and now what would I have to connect to here into the network switch, right, John? We got to connect.
Yeah. So I can just, what you can do is you can connect them into any ports on the switch. So there's no particular order that you have to follow. I do recommend that you try to be at least a little bit organized about it. But the idea here is that I can just pick some ports. I'm going to flip the switch around and plug in, and then so I can see it. But I'm just going to take these three right here.
And you can just choose wherever you want, which is one of the real beauties of using our network switch is you're not having to worry about managing certain ports or formatting certain ports. This is going to be all managed for you, and it's just ready to be plugged in.
Right. So we have that. Now the next thing I think I'll do is plug in our encoders or transmitters, if you will. When you think of a multicast system, one of the things you want to think about is that it's kind of like a radio station. So you've got broadcasting going on from, let's say, a transmitter, and think of cars driving down the road. Those are your receivers.
Gotcha.
And therefore, what we're doing is simply broadcasting to those cars. And if they're tuned to the same radio station, they're going to hear the same song being played at exactly the same time.
That's so cool. So with these right here, do you want me to connect these to the receivers, John? These four colors? All right.
Please.
So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm that noob on site. John is that guy who's been doing this for so long. He heard that he's teamed up with me today for an installation, and he's like, boss, I can't even work with that guy. But then he realized he's going to be installing MXNet. He's like, fine, we're doing MXNet. Yep. I'll take that idiot Tom on.
This isn't the first time. Of course, my first rodeo is not, every time that we, as we did major revisions during the development process, I would go through and just restart from scratch and reinstall an MXNet system every time. So, we're pretty familiar with the process. You'll notice that when I plug them in, the little displays start to light up to indicate, that we've got power.
Oh yeah, mine are doing the same thing right over here. That's awesome.
So Nick the cameraman's gonna kind of zoom in. These are little OLED displays. You can see right now it's showing us an IP address and the MAC address of this particular transmitter. In a while later, we'll see that I can actually custom name these transmitters, so I can say what they're plugged into. So I can call this one Roku, this one I could call it Apple TV, this one I could call it Blu-ray. We'll see that in action. But right now I'm just going to get them plugged in, and then I'm going to get the cables going. So I think the Blu-ray will go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and flip this switch back around.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to get one more wire just because I'm going to want to connect the control box and power it up.
Oh, sure.
So I like to use port 1 on the switch for the control box. You don't have to. Okay, we'll use whatever port you want. It's PoE, but that powers the control box and also is part of the control piece to the switch itself for the multicast routing controls and so forth. So
you have a 48 port switch. Just know that one of those endpoints in that 48 when you're doing your install does have to be for your control box. And there are a ton of good questions coming in. And so I'm going to just start kind of fielding those to you, John.
Okay.
Some of these. So let's start here. Neil had a question. How does the switch handle third-party control systems in Dante audio devices?
Okay, so Dante, we are in development on. We'll have a Dante solution sometime next month.
Great.
Okay. As far as third-party control systems, we've got drivers for Crestron, Control 4, Savant. We got QSYS. I'm trying to think of all the
I mean,
major,
just we have the connectors for it. We have people on staff that are ready to, help you connect any third-party control systems. The thing about AVPro Edge, this is still an AVPro Edge product, and AVPro Edge, we play nicely with everybody. We want to be that infrastructure, that backbone, but still work with the systems that you're familiar with, that you like using. So Control4, Crestron, QSYS, any of the big systems, you're not going to have a problem integrating MXNet into those systems, and be able to send signals to the control box. Then via the control box, we'll be able to manage every single input or output signal that you're sending back and forth. Let's go to the next question. The next one, can the switch be shared for the rest of a network in a project? Kenny, we suggest no. This network switch, when you buy an MXNet system, it is for audio video. When you start to input other types of signals into a multicast system that's designed for audio video, it can mess up the entire system, and you can start losing bandwidth, and it will steal bandwidth. John, what the heck is going on? I got MXNet signs behind me. How did that happen?
Yeah, well, we got video going. I'm just plugging stuff in. As you can see, video is starting to play. In fact, we even got on the display right here on my to my right side.
John, we're only 13 minutes in. We can't have video running already. This is, okay.
Anyone that's been in on any of my seminars that I've done with the PowerPoint, I stress constantly the word plug and play, and this is true. You're seeing it in action. I didn't have to configure a switch. All I have to do is plug in my transmitters and receivers, and we've got
traffic.
We're going. Okay.
Okay.
And just like that, we're ready to go. I mean, we're basically done.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're going to do some other things. But I wanted to also answer that question about the networking part.
Yeah.
So the control box itself, this guy right here plugs directly into the switch, and then it's part of controlling the multicast routing and all that kind of stuff. But then it's also got a connection that you can plug into the LAN. So you can have your AV system, your AV traffic, filtered out through the control box so that it will not flood your local area network that's designed for your email and all that kind of stuff. It will not flood it with multicast traffic. So just so you know, this acts as a little filtering agent to keep that kind of traffic from invading your regular LAN network.
Makes sense.
Okay.
I'm just coming up here, guys, to get this one going here.
Oh yeah, I forgot that guy.
And
here's a
HDMI
and he's on. So
because this little Meridio monitor was feeling left out, guys. So.
Yeah, so you need to have, that's another one. So that one will get something going shortly. So yeah, we are ready. When you see, for example, down at the bottom here, we've got a little green light blinking and the timer just fell down top of there.
That's okay.
This little green light means that we're not linked to anything. Well, that's partly because the HDMI cable actually isn't plugged in all the way. So that will probably change in a minute here, now that it will acquire a sync with something in a moment. There it goes, just like that. So there we are. We are plugged in and ready to go. So now we're ready to configure MXNet. And so,
well, before we get into it, I mean, we're only 15 minutes in. We have everything going. It's automatically just routing something. We haven't done any switching. We haven't done anything like that. But as you can see, it's that easy because these decoders and these encoders and this switch were engineered to work together immediately out of the box. This is the kind of setup that you have. So now, I mean, I just want to take a second before we just jump too far forward and show you how impactful this really can be for yourself, for your integration company, being able to put together a system this quickly. So I do have a ton more questions coming in though. So let's get I'm gonna kind of work these questions and we'll see what's going on here. So Arachnus switch is compatible, and if so, will you provide a configuration or instructions for configuration from Paul?
Yes, we will.
Okay, perfect. So yes and yes.
Yes and yes.
That's your answer.
We're providing a whole slew of switch configuration guides. We're in the process of fine tuning them a little bit, getting the grammar right, all that kind of stuff. But they're already written, and it's going to have step-by-step with screenshots and all that kind of stuff. So you know what boxes to check and all that kind of stuff. Just get the Arachnid switch is a really good switch. No doubt about it. It's got a good processor in it, so that's another good option, if you will.
Perfect.
If you don't want to go with our switch.
All right, Mark has a question. What is the recommended specification for category cable?
Okay, well, this is the beauty of AV over IP in this case. This is a 1 gig system. That means it'll run on Cat5e. Okay, so that means you can go into legacy installations where the hardware is failing, it's dying, but it's all wired for Cat5, and you can go in and bring in MXNet in there and replace it with with whatever was there already. So you don't have to worry like you do with HD-Base-T, where everything's got to be Cat6a and you got to ground.
What kind of cabling are we using in our demo right here, John?
I don't even know. It looks kind of like it's Cat6.
Yeah, so Cat6, Cat5, I mean Cat5e. You'll kind of see when we pull up some diagnostics. It's going to tell you the health of your bandwidth, and so if you are having some, maybe some cabling that's a little less, maybe a little more touchy, it's a little less stable than you want, you can actually lower a bandwidth just for a certain run, send a smaller signal down that same path. That's a great question though, Mark. Richard had a question. Can you set different PoE priorities?
You can, but you don't need to.
Yeah, I was going to say, in this system, you don't need to, right?
3 to 6 watts per endpoint. We've got 740 watts to play with, a fully populated 48-port switch with, let's say, 47 endpoints. It's going to use like 300 watts max. I mean, I don't even know if it'll use that much. That's probably a little high, actually. And so you've got 440 watts of additional power available. So you don't really need to worry about allocating that power. It can be done. You have to go into the GUI. We can talk about it if you've got some kind of device.
And we have John, we have our network switch engineer on staff. So you just let us know and we can help you through if you have a specific installation. Just give us a call and reach out.
Yeah, we're always happy to help.
Exactly. Next question we have, Andy, is your switch just for AV over IP, or can I also use it for Dante and Crestron traffic? Will it VLAN the Dante away from the other stuff?
Okay, so so Dante will have its own VLAN. Okay, and what we're doing is we're building into MXNet Mentor, which is the software that we're going to look at shortly. We're building in a Dante button, if you will. So if I have certain endpoints that are going to be transporting Dante signals, I can simply select those endpoints and hit the Dante button, and it will automatically configure the switch with that additional VLAN.
Excellent.
Otherwise, with multicast, you don't need a bunch of VLANs. If you're used to, so let's say just that power, that's like VLAN on steroids. I mean, you got to have a VLAN for every encoder and all that kind of stuff. With multicast, you only run on one VLAN for for most AV stuff.
Very cool. All right, and then we have from Terrace, can the switch be set up as a VLAN or Dante? We kind of just covered that. All right, is PoE turned on for every port as the default? Yes, the answer is yes, Mark, and that because these all run on PoE. As you can see, I have my decoders here that are connected to these 3 TVs sending a signal. I didn't give them power at all. We have just plugged in the switch and then the power is coming over this category cable. And the same with, or I guess this is the encoders. These are the decoders, sorry. But, vice versa, that we did not have to power any of these devices. All right. Will you go into how to manage IR and RS-32? We sure will.
Yes.
All right. Is it possible to use your switches to transmit other protocols like Dante? So many good questions about that. Yes, guys, thank you. Are these components JICT certified? I'm not sure what that is. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with that.
We'll have to follow up afterwards.
We'll
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with that that standard or specification. Yep.
Yeah, our switch engineer.
And to clarify, every MXNet requires the control box, even if you're only using the AVPro browser control. Yes. That is how you get the browser controls. You're actually connecting, you're not connecting to the switch. You're not connecting to the encoders or decoders. You're connecting to
the control box. Now, yeah, I had done some experimenting where I'd taken a transmitter and a receiver and I plugged them together. So basically I made a baling out of them, right? And if you know how to set the IP addresses on these things individually, you could, set it up so that they would not need a control box. But it would be a one-to-one. It would just turn it into a stupid baling, right? There wouldn't be much more to it.
Yep. And if you are going to use it for that, just please talk to one of us because we have better options for you. So then we'll go with another one is, does a license need to be purchased with the switch? Is it perpetual or a subscription license? And there is no license.
Yeah,
That's the best part about this is we aren't some giant company that's trying to gouge you for every single thing. I mean, we are a company that's built for integrators. We get our ideas for our products from integrators, and we make it as easy as we possibly can for integrators and even new people to the industry to be able to kind of give professional solutions. And so, the answer is a clear no on that one, Edmund. Thank you, though. Does it matter if it's a layer 2 or layer 3 switch? And this does matter, John.
This is a layer 4. Yeah, so but I mean, you need to be at least a layer 3.
Yep. And so it does matter, but yeah, if you go with us, you're going to have a switch that is built for extremely high bandwidth critical signals, and we'll talk about that in a second here. We have, does the switch set up its own subnet, or is it on the same subnet as the main network? This is separated.
Yeah, it's separated. I mean, there's a management port that you could plug into, and you could plug that into the LAN, and at that point, it has its own IP address, and you might want to change the IP address to match the IP scheme that you might have at that installation. But otherwise, you won't need to ever go into the management port or the console port or any of that stuff because it's already done for you.
Yep.
This is the thing. I mean, yeah, if you want to get in there and go crazy on the switch, you can do so. That's not a problem, but you don't need to.
Yeah. It's pre-configured beforehand for that AV traffic, so that is why we say you wouldn't want to partition half of this switch off as your normal network traffic.
Yeah.
This is a switch that is going to be dedicated for your AV system. Could this be used as a standalone system and control it via an app on an iPad or an Android tablet? Well, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have an app right now, but yes, very clearly you could set up a browser. So you just visit a browser, and then you're able to do some controls. And we're going to go into that. That is called MXNet Mentor, a system that John specifically designed and engineered. As in Raymond. So this is a follow-up. As in no third-party control. So Raymond, you wouldn't need third-party controls. We are looking into ways to lock down because with that, the way that I'm talking about with the MXNet Mentor, it is open to a lot of stuff that you may not want the end user to get into,
right,
such as IR and RS-232 routing, which we want to answer the other person's question too.
We're planning with Mentor. We're going to have multiple logins, and that's going to be part of coming out in the next couple of weeks. We'll have that piece in there. The multiple logins are going to have like an admin login that gives you full access to all the tools. Okay, that is not necessarily what you want anybody else to have access to, but you, the installer, integrator.
So why do we talk about this? Why don't you get MXNet Mentor up, and then once you have it up, share your screen because we can kind of answer these questions as we're going in with that. Eddie, my good friend Eddie, great to hear from you. He says, when plugged in out of the box, what is the standard connection between the encoders and decoders? All right, looks like John, you're up here.
Yep. So as you can see, I've got a username and password sign in, which we'll just go ahead and do that right now to get into the home page, and away we go.
So you just pulled up a browser right here. So you guys now are seeing John's desktop on his computer right here. He just pulled up a browser. As you can see, looks like John is a Google Chrome user, and then he put in this IP address. And so how did you know to put in this IP address?
Well, one of the things that's kind of cool, and Nick, our cameraman, can kind of zoom in on it, is on the front of the box, it actually says what the IP address is. So that's how I knew what the IP address was supposed to be. And this, of course, can be changed right here in Mentor. where I could, if I wanted to, I could change this IP address to a different IP address. I can turn on DHCP if I'm trying to pull an IP address, at least so that I'm matching up to the scheme, the network IP protocol scheme that you have at whatever installation it is. So you have full control over that. You can also control this system over RS-232. We have a terminal block in the back, right here for RS-232, as well as it can be controlled over IP, because you could plug the control box into the LAN. Let's say this is my LAN cable here, basically, and I can control it over Telnet port 23. So
Very cool. Well, now you just lost it. You lost LAN.
Unplugged.
Well, but to answer what is the standard connection between the encoders and decoders? I don't know if there is a standard connection. I mean, it just comes as it is, Eddie. So then, it's defaulted until just pass whatever signal comes in, goes right on through. John's going to show you how you can manage that a little bit more, though, when you do get connected in here. Yeah. Mark had a question. What is the compression codec? John, if you want to hit that one.
Oh, okay. So it's JPEG 2000. JPEG 2000. One of the things with AVPro, we had this, really big background, especially in the 18 gig and HD based T switch, category. So picture quality is really, really important. So there's a couple, there's a few choices out there in terms of encoding, and we chose JPEG 2000. It gives you a better picture quality. It supports high dynamic range, metadata, things like that we wanted to be able to do. So we have, for example, we can do Dolby Vision on MXNet, which is not many 1 gig systems out there can support that.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, we are the experts of high picture, so we know we generate metadata with some of our different products from our sister companies. We have been studying this since the specification was released. And so we're just ahead of the game in that. So even though we are late to the market with AV over IP, since we come to the market, we are going to have it fully packed to be able to handle all the specifications you want. So there are some other questions. It's definitely, the answer is JPEG 2000. We do use that same compression for 4K 444, so you can do 4K 60. We have our own flavor of ICT that we use in conjunction with JPEG 2000 in order to enable these high bandwidth signals, which is pretty cool.
Intelligent AV processing.
Yep. So it's pretty gnarly stuff. Is the MX line of products TAA compliant? One more standard. I'm sorry, I don't know your standards yet, but I will learn them today, and I will follow up and let you guys know, and I'll make a comment as well if you guys are watching this later. Do you have a rack mounts for the transmitters? Yes. It has an easy rack system. We don't have it here, but you can definitely check it out on our system. It can hold 15 in a rack mounted system, so you can really pile it in there.
Obviously, in a different setting, I would be putting all of this stuff in a rack. And these guys can be in the rack mount, they can be stood on their ends, which is actually a good thing because you got your vents on the sides. So when you stand them on your ends, you've got airflow going through the system, so they'll run even cooler than they run now, which is when they're stacked here, they're still really
just fine.
They're just lukewarm.
Yep. So. Paul said, wondering about the future of tiling and video wall. Video wall is already here. It's ready to go. For tiling, we have a video flux, a separate unit that you are able to run your pictures through for that. And then for native tiling, maybe that's something down the road, but just let us know how you want to tile and we can usually help you out.
As far as video walls go right now, we have a standard 2x2 and 3x3. Okay, that you can set up, and it's pretty easy to set up. And we have unlimited video walls, which is, I think we're the only ones offering that option. We are also going to be supporting mosaic style video walls and asymmetrical video wall setups. Okay, so all of that's coming on the next rev of the software. So what's really, in fact, while we're looking at the home page, you'll notice I've got some update tiles in here. Besides my network settings, I also have the MXNet system update, in which I can update the control box firmware, as well as my decoder updates and my encoder updates. This is all done right through the web. And if I want to update, multiple decoders, let's say, I can just simply select those. And first of all, I got to load a file first, but I can, select the file, and then I can broadcast out multiple unit updates at the same time.
Which is really cool. So I just went through the questions. There's tons of good questions, but we are going to skip ahead because, it's, 10:35 here in South Dakota. And I know you guys want to see some switching, and we want to see what this can do. So this is a really cool setup. John, can we get into the actual switching of the screens behind us? And let's start talking about managing different signals, how you can use this MXNet Mentor to switch signals. Let's show the people switching. I'd love to see you say, I'm going to switch this TV and then switch it, and I'm going to switch this TV and then switch it, and kind of just see so they can see speeds and how it works like that. Let's give us the whole demo.
Okay, so what I can do is first of all, I'm going to jump to the configure page real quick, and in here we can see our list of encoders. So I have 3 of them, and right now under the custom name column, I don't have any custom names. I have simply the MAC addresses of these encoders. And then I have EDID management, what channel they're running off of, their IP addresses. There's the MAC address again, what version of firmware and stuff like that. We also have diagnostics that we can do. In a minute, I'm going to load up the diagnostics. I need to move this little guy out of the way. He was getting in the way of my button. There it goes. Now, so we have our system diagnostics that tells us everything that's going on, what kind of resolution things are, etc. This one is off. That's because my Blu-ray player turned itself off. I'm going to turn it on now.
But as you guys can see where his cursor is, right under HDMI video, it actually has a signal analyzation that once you are connected to the system, you're actually able to see, does this have HDR? What resolution is going on here? What is my connection speed? You can have your connected network. Does this have HDCP? What version? And then has all sorts of really cool stuff. And this is just one little page out of this MXNet Mentor software.
Exactly. And this is this. And then we also have, of course, the same kind of diagnostics for this. And as you'll see here, we've got some stuff that's saying fail. So the control box was actually looking for these other items, receivers, and it's saying fail. There's no signal because those receivers are not plugged in right now.
Yeah.
So I did that on purpose so you guys can see how the diagnostics work.
So what happens if I unplug one of these? Could I do that, John?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. You can unplug it.
So I'm just going to unplug this. Looks like it happens to be the TV goes behind me.
Right. So what'll happen is it's going to take it a few seconds to notice. And what I can do is I can hit refresh, and it takes usually about 40 seconds before it does a polling to see if everybody's still happy or not.
But it doesn't shut down my whole system. It looks like my other TVs are running just fine. It looks like my TVs right here is running fine. And then when I plug this in, I'm going to plug it into another port too, and we'll just kind of see what happens here.
And that's going to give you that flexibility. And also, I just wanted to address the question about what kind of wiring you can use. And you're going to notice on here, if we look at network connection itself and then connection speed. So if you have good cables, I mean you've got good termination and there's no like tears or weird things going on with the cables in terms of interference coming in, you're going to have green, good 1 gig speeds. But the way network switches are designed, if they can't get the data across because there's something flaky about the cable, what they do is they slow themselves down to 1/10 the speed that they would normally run at. And this green good is going to go from good to marginal, and it's going to change the color. It's going to change to yellow.
Cool. So it's a visual key that any integrator would be able to just go to this IP address and see that information.
There it goes. I just hit refresh, and now you can see how it's.
So our bottom one, it looks like went to no signal. Now I'm just gonna,
plug it in anywhere you want.
All right. This is, as you guys can see, it's a different port. I plugged this in differently. We just the system is up, and we're just hot plugging it directly into a system that is live. It did not shut everything else down. As you can see, this isn't something that most systems are going to tell you they want you to do. But yeah, so John's checking out now. It looks like behind me, I'm starting to get a signal on this TV in real time. So pretty gnarly. And then I can't wait to, let's give it another minute so then we can click refresh and then see it it going, because we know it's live because it's pulled behind me, as you guys can see.
And it just came back up live.
And then I want to also now, the people are waiting to see switching though. I know they're waiting to see switching.
So I'm going to go. What happens is when you plug in all your encoders and decoders, it creates these lists basically, and then I have an icon here called Auto Matrix. So when I go to this page, what it does is it automatically creates for me a matrix. Okay, and as you can see, it also every 12 seconds loads a thumbnail of the content that is currently playing on the different equipment. So you can see, for example, I'm going to hit play on this Blu-ray, so it'll continue to stay going, and it's going to start playing this Planet Earth video, whatever it is. Okay, so every as you can see, every 12 seconds that thumbnail updates a little bit. So those are our sources. So right now we have the fish tank on one and the Apple TV behind me. What I'm going to do is the red tiles that you see over here for outputs, those are those receivers that are missing right now. So it's telling me, hey, where are those receivers? I can go into the system utilities and actually remove them from the list. Okay, then they'll go away and we won't see them. But otherwise, what I can do is I'm just going to switch everybody to the Blu-ray. So let's see. I think it's this.
Well, let's just switch this one, John, instead of just switching them all. Let's switch. I want to see. You choose the one that you want it to be, and then I want to see it switch. One of the ones behind me, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go here. Well, there we go. So here it comes. Now this one is just switching, and what's going to happen is it's going to load the metadata, and so now we're in HDR10. Okay.
Very cool.
Just like that, because this Blu-ray is a HDR10 Blu-ray. So.
That's excellent. Now switch it back. And let's see.
So then we'll go back to, let's say, well, we could go to the Apple TV. And I'm trying to think, is it this one here? But I might want to do, yep, that's it. And you can see a little flash. Then the video picks up. And now we'll be back. And now we're looking at, and actually, this is the Blu-ray here. And it just loaded the HDR10 metadata. So what happens is that, well, which one is which? So the first thing I know is that I know I'm looking at a Blu-ray right now, and I'm sending it to this middle TV. So one of the things I might want to do here is simply put the custom name in, and I think I'll just call it Vizio dash middle. Okay, whoops, I didn't look into the little custom name box. Vizio dash middle. So I can do this either here or I can do it in the configure pages. Okay. But that will rename that for me. And in fact, if I go to configure, but I also know that this is a Blu-ray. So I'm going to click here and call it Blu-ray, just like that, and enter that in. Now, if we go back to the configure page, you'll see how the rename has taken place for the encoder.
Yeah.
And then we can, if we go over to our decoders, we'll see right here, it says Vizio middle. So that's already happened. And if I go back to Auto Matrix, we'll now see as it loads up, we can see this tile right here says Blu-ray, and then over here on the right it says Vizio middle. So what I'm going to do now is maybe I want to do some configurations.
This is the one where it says Vizio middle right on here, guys, if you can see it. And then so on the little screen, when John makes that change, it actually updates on the unit. So if you were, in the room or you needed to check it out, you would actually be able to visibly see which one that name change goes with.
Right. So one of the things I can do real quick is I'm going to get rid of these red tiles. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them from the list. And I have a special utility that allows me to do that. So I'm just going to select them, and then I'm going to say remove, and it says, are you sure? Yes. So that just took care of that. So now
let's go back to that Auto Matrix now.
Yeah, now if we go back to Auto Matrix, we're no longer going to see those red tiles. Okay, so we've got that going. So now we can tell, not only where things are going, but I can see the name of the output, which says Vizio middle, and the name of the input, which says Blu-ray. Now, if I want to switch over to, let's say, the Apple TV, I can do that, and I'll just send it to the Vizio middle. You'll see the switch take place. Now, what it's doing is, because we're switching from HDR10 to Dolby Vision, it takes it a second to pull that up. Okay, and what I can do is I can go in and configure. I can set up my EDITs accordingly. For example, if I wanted to copy the EDIT of that Vizio TV, I could do so just by, and let me figure out which one is the Apple TV. I know it's this top one. So that's it's actually saying Blu-ray here. Okay.
Look how easy. Now he needs to figure out which one it is. He can just look at the front of the unit, and he's actually able to read it because he has named that source inside his system, which is so cool.
Yeah, it is. And actually, I misnamed it. So what we're looking at where it says Blu-ray, I'm going to fix that because actually what it is it's the Apple TV. And in the Blu-ray, is going to be I think the one on the bottom. So that is has a MAC address, and then I'll stop pushing this button. Sorry, Tom. 58AA. Okay, so let's find 58AA. There it is. So I can click right in here. Just change this to Blu-ray, just like that, and hit enter, and we're set. Okay. You'll also see we've got light things we can do. For example, I'll turn on the flashing lights on the encoders, and you can see them in Nick's
You can see them right there.
You can see them flashing. So this helps me locate, especially on the receiver side, the decoder side. This helps me locate, a particular receiver or encoder as needed. And then I also have the ability to turn the lights off completely. And that means even on the receivers, I can turn all the lights off, including the blinking network lights in the back. So you no longer have to have that situation where you've got an installation where there's a TV in a really dark room, and you don't have to get the black electrical tape out and try to cover up those lights, because people are getting annoyed by seeing the reflections coming off the back behind the wall behind the TV.
Very cool. So let's now talk a little bit about some other stuff about the system here, John.
Okay.
Let's answer some of the questions. First, the person had a question about IR and RS-232 routing.
Okay, sure.
You just want to give them show them the screen on where to do that and how to do that?
Yeah, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Okay. So first of all, we support, and I'm going to add to this. We support CEC over HDMI. So that allows me to send power on and off commands, for example, to televisions right from Mentor to test the CEC. And then with your control system your chosen control system, you could also do the same thing. But with this, built in the Mentor is the ability to test these connections. So we have, in this case, CEC. We also have RS-232 over IP, and I will be in the next rev of software. We'll also have RS-232. I'm sorry, IR over IP. Okay, so you'll be able to actually put those IR hex codes, those big group of 4,000 codes or whatever, you'll be able to actually put those in and send them over the control box IP system. So really nice feature there. And so that's what you do basically is you say, for example, you pick what your control configuration is going to be, and you can either be RS-232 or you can be CEC. You just click on which one you want. Once you've made that choice, and then over here we've got like for LG TVs, I've already put in the control codes and so forth for RS-232 over IP. Once I've done that, then I go to the edit routing configuration, and this is where I can give it a group name. And then I can pick the receivers that I want to send those commands to, just like that. And then when I close it, it's done. And now when I hit the power on or off button, it would send that power on or off command. Now, in this case, I don't have any LGs hooked up into the system currently, so it's going to yell at me about it.
Yeah, but that's great. That just shows our integrators how they would be able to manage these systems as well. So, John, we are wrapping up in the next 10 minutes here. I have tons of questions. Is there anything that you're dying to show these people that are watching live with MX Mentor before we kind of just go through some more questions?
No, I think we're good right now. I think, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, you guys, you kind of saw the different things that you can go with this, and there's been some different questions about, is this a downloadable PC software? Is it cost money?
Right.
I mean, kind of tell people
how. So this is browser based. So it'll run on an iPad. It'll run on your phone. We're refining the CSS kind of functions within the web interface so that it'll work on, you know, a form factor such as this. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, ideally, you know, you just all you need is a 1080p computer display to run this, and as you can see, it goes in real nicely. Easy.
Well, excellent. So we have, like, you know, there's just a ton of people on it. So I'm sure we're not going to get to every question, but let's try to give some we'll try to give quick answers to as many questions as we can. I'm just going to start from the bottom and work up here, John.
Okay.
Do the transmitters and receivers, so encoders and decoders, which, and Gary, I saw your comment in here. I called this decoder and encoder earlier like a fool, and I apologize. So we do have do the transmitters and receivers support ARC for small TV app audio playback?
No.
They do not support audio return channel. Can the USB be routed independently of the video signals?
Yeah, in fact, let me show you that real quick.
Okay.
I'm going to go down to the bottom down here where it says USB KVM. So this is our keyboard video mouse. So what I can do is I can set up a host return channel relationship. So first thing, if we look at the back of our encoders, you're going to see a USB-B port right there. Okay, so this is the host. The encoder is going to be the host. And then, so what I can do with that is I can plug my computer into that encoder through a you know, kind of, it's basically a printer cable, a USB printer cable, right? And then on our receivers, you'll see there's a couple of USB ports. The one on the left, port 1, is our high-speed port, so that's where you plug in video cameras, things like that. And the one on the right is like for keyboards and mice. Now, there's only 2 ports, but you can add a hub.
Yeah, you could always add a hub if you needed to, but you can plug that up anyway. And then, yes, it's completely independent. You control the routing right here in this built-in web GUI. So,
yeah, so I just click on this button and I say KVM host. I choose, let's say, Blu-ray encoder as the host, and then I pick where it's going to come from, and I'll just say it's going to come from the Vizio middle receiver. And you'll see right there, I've set up the relationship. You can see the little arrow pointing that we're going to go, the input's going to go back to the host through the Blu-ray.
Simple as that.
That's how hard it is to set up KVM system.
The next question was, does the USB support cameras and microphones? Yes, he just answered that with the fast one.
2.0.
For ARC and eARC, no support for ARC and eARC currently.
We have a lot of audio breakouts out here, including balanced stereo, and you know, so there's different ways to get audio, but not at this point.
Yep, exactly. And then the next question is, can you date program source and destination? So I think that would be like where it would auto switch. We don't have anything where you could pick a day and a date that inputs would switch to a different any outputs, but that is great feedback that we'll put into product development. We like that.
Scheduling is something we're looking seriously at.
Excellent. All right.
We would rather the control system driver do it.
Seems like 4K 60 444 is very taxing on a 1G system. Do we have plans for a 10G system in the future?
We're looking into it. I can't really go into any more detail.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll spill a little bit of the beans. I mean, we have prototypes. We are ready to do that. We just don't know if the market is ready for it. 10G systems are very expensive. Yeah. We want to master 1G systems the best we possibly can. And once we have a handle on that, if we feel the market's there, we'll go into it. So, you know, the feedback, is that what your clients are looking for? Is that what your customers want? The problem with 10G is you're going 10 times the bandwidth for each one of these different things. That ups the price a lot.
A lot, yeah, because you have to have a 10G switch. You got to have 10G encoders, decoders. You know, it's going to be like an SDBOE type system, so you're going to have, you know, extra heat sinks to keep it running cool. There's lots of things that have to be taken into consideration with that.
Yep. One of the questions was, how does USB video work? Well, it doesn't. You don't plug in a USB camera to this and then that's your source or anything like that. This is actually, it's you know, transmitting in allowing the data for a USB signal to flow. So it could be any USB high-speed signal. We're just, because microphones and cameras are a part of that system, well, then you can also set it up for them. So that it's using that same separated system than the HDI pipe or HDMI pipeline.
Yeah. So I mean, it's, think of it as that you're going to plug a USB camera into one of the receivers. Here, it's going to be like you plugged in the webcam. It's going to route back to the TV, to the computer, the host computer, and you could use whatever video camera software you want to use.
Exactly. Like right now, I'm using a camera going through my computer to show you guys all of that, what's going on. Well, what we could do is we could actually route this camera through this system so that we could send the USB signals one way and we could send the HDMI signals the opposite way. It's a great way that that's used in classrooms and used in all sorts of places that you need to maybe have a secure or remote computer, but you still want to control it in a different room. If you have a touch screen or a smart board that you need to manage, you need to have a USB signal go back to a computer that's going to do that, but you still want to show that desktop. That's why that has the full USB video routing is any video that is being able to be passed through that USB 2.0 high-speed signal, you're able to use MXNet to route that signal however you wanted. Some more of the questions here. Could you now make any changes to the source? Yeah, I mean, do you want to do a little more switching here, John, I suppose?
Sure. So let's see, we'll just go back and I'll say, let's see, let's get the thumbnails up. There we go. We'll go back to the fish tank and I'll just send it back to this middle one here. Now, there's a couple of things we can do. We can speed up switching quite a bit if I force certain resolutions. So, for example, one of the really cool features is in our configuration is I can set this up to say that I want everything to be 4K 30 or 4K 60, whatever it might be, and I can just go through and select these options, okay? And then once I select these options, I can also choose whether I want to retain the HDR metadata or not, okay? And I can turn those options on and off as needed. And then what happens then is I'm setting the scaling. And when you set the scaling, then the switching gets faster. So what happens is if I switch back to, let's say, the Apple TV and send it back to here, now when I hit the switch, you see how quickly it happened. It was like instantaneous.
Whoa, do that again. Yeah, that was sweet.
So
Can you go back and forth?
To the fish tank and go back to here, and boom, there we go. So that you get almost instant switching. And what's cool with the system, the way we designed it, is that we take what we do is we retain the HDR metadata, or we retain metadata for SDR, but depending on what the source is. So if I switch to an SDR source, we will switch to the video first. Then we will, in a couple of seconds, load the SDR metadata. If I switch to, let's say, an Apple TV that's running Dolby Vision, it'll switch to that Apple TV right away, and then a couple of seconds later, we'll load the Dolby Vision metadata. So that allows us to have really fast switching, and it just takes a couple of seconds. You'll see the colors change. That's about all you'll notice. So very, very cool.
All right, I had a question from Jason. Does the audio downmixing encoder downmix the audio embedded in the HDMI stream or the extracted audio, or both?
It's I know
extracted.
Okay.
It's not, because the HDMI stream is going to still pass unimpeded, Jason, so that if you did need to use that down the line into a different zone, you still could. It's going to take that audio, convert that, downmix that, full, Dolby Atmos 32 channels of audio into a nice clear 2-channel, and then let you extract that. So then you can go into an audio matrix, into your distributed audio system that you have. Great question. What is the maximum routing, or what is the routing maximum runs? That's from Paul. I don't know if he knows maybe distance. What's the distance limitations for this?
I mean, you've got, your Cat5 limitations are usually around 150 feet, I think, something in that range. But we can, one of the things we forgot to mention is that we've got LC fiber connections. That's the SFP fiber connections built in to both our encoders and decoders. These, of course, do not run on PoE. So you would also want to have a power adapter that would plug in right here. Okay, but yeah, so we can do, if you need really long runs, we can go a kilometer or two.
Yeah, you just use an SFP, and then you can use that signal using with the fiber ports and the switch. So then let's see here. Oh, yep, 150 feet on IP system is a question. So it sounds like, yep, that's right. What is, we have Paul, is it USB 2.0 or 3.0? It's USB 2.0. Adam, what programming variables will be built into the control system drivers? I.e., when X input is active, do they do Y? Similar to your existing matrices?
Yes.
Yep. So that's all.
All the feedbacks, all that stuff. The API, you know, I had a lot to hand in designing the API for this system. In a lot of ways, it's similar to our matrices, but in a lot of ways, it's very different because it does a whole lot more. And especially with the custom names, you don't want to just be input one, output one. If you may want to have to actually use the custom names. Now, it depends on the control system. Control 4 takes over. In fact, you don't even need Mentor really to set up a Control 4 system. It'll just automatically name things in 1, in 2, in 3, you know, out 1, out 2, out 3, etc. in the custom name field.
Perfect.
And then there's a description field that we have in the configure page for in those in the description field, which is empty right here. With Control 4, any bindings you have will automatically be put in there. So it'll automatically say, you know, LG Blu-ray or whatever, you know, driver that you chose for the bindings.
That's so awesome. Well, guys, it has been a full hour. You know, I guess 58 minutes on our timer. As you can see, it's very easy to put this together. I want to say goodbye because I know a lot of people are going to have to jump off. You know, that's what we scheduled this for, an hour. But I do want to let you know that me and John are here, so we'll stick around and we'll keep on answering questions. But for, you know, if you are catching this on YouTube, goodbye. If you have any additional questions, put them in the comments and we will definitely get to those. Thank you so much for joining.